Okay. Well, as you see, I was born down in Georgia, so please excuse my accent. Just kidding. I'm following up on Rick's presentation about the telescopes, and the idea here is to give you some tips. You saw some descriptions before. What is a refractor? What is a Smith-Cassegrain? What is a reflector? So now let's see some tips. So you are getting a new telescope. You get to the online store and you see this. So what do we do? What do we buy? Okay. Well, let's try to help. The first thing, when you are going to purchase a telescope, you need to decide what type of telescope. You can buy a refractor like this one. The pictures I'm showing here are not suggestions of what you need to buy. I'm just to show the type of telescope, okay? I don't want you to, oh, I saw that, Freddy recommended that. No, okay? I don't want to recommend anything. So you can get a refractor like this. In this case, this is a nice telescope. It's at 70 millimeter diameter, and the tripod is relatively good, and it's not that expensive. Okay, so you need to decide first on what type of telescope you want. You can get a refractor, you can get a reflector, or you can get a catadioptric telescope. In this case, this is a Maxutov Cassegrain, like the one Rick showed before. So once you decide what type of telescope, let's discuss what are the difference between each other. The refractor telescope, aperture. The aperture, the bigger is better, but it's more expensive. And as Rick also showed you, you see your stars here, you have a lens in the front, and the light is pointed on a focal point, and then you have an eyepiece that straightens the light and generates an image on in front of your eye so you can see the stars that are going through the telescope. The idea of the telescope is to increase the amount of light your eye is gathering, okay? It's not to magnify. Magnification is a consequence of the process you are doing here. But the most important thing is the aperture. Don't buy a telescope in the box that says 400x or 800x. It's not worth it, probably. Aperture is the diameter of the element that takes the light, okay?
Diameter.
Maybe a mirror, maybe a lens like this one, or maybe another type of lens or corrector plate that I will show you later. Okay, so the most important thing is the diameter. Another thing with refractor telescope is the focal length. The longer the focal length, the less distortion the image has, and the refractor telescope works better with longer focal lengths, okay? That means the telescope is longer, but it works better. The other thing that you need to take into consideration is the lens type. In most of the design that we show you today, there is only one lens here. And you will see on our talk in January that is more technical, that this configuration with only one lens have a defect. Not all the colors point in the same spot when you pass them through a lens, because those are different wavelengths. So that is the case of achromatic telescope. With apochromatic refractors, you have more than one lens here that compensate for that, and the focal point for the colors is almost the same. So for a cheap telescope, you can go ahead with achromatic. The only difference will be that if you point to a very bright object, imagine the moon, you will see a ring of a color around it, okay? It doesn't matter. If you get used to that, it works perfect, okay? But apochromatic telescope are 3 or 4 times more expensive than the achromatic telescopes, okay? The refractors are very nice for bright objects. Planets, solar observing with proper filtering, the moon, and they work also for galaxies, but they have, as Rick said before, you cannot make a 40-inch refractor that doesn't weigh 10 tons. Okay, so these telescopes are normally small. are good for bright objects. If you want to chase galaxies, you will need a bigger telescope, a more diameter telescope. Probably your option will be another one. Now we come with the reflector telescopes. The reflector telescopes are like this one. You have a parabolic mirror here, a secondary mirror, and the light is directed to the eyepiece when the observer, your eye is here. Okay, as you see here, there are two surfaces that need to be aligned properly in order to produce a good image. That is why we say that the refractor telescope frequently need alignment, because when you travel with them, if you don't take good care of them, they get disaligned and the image is not good. Or, by example, in the case of Jeremy's telescope, every time he assembles it, he has to adjust the mirror so they have the perfect focus. This is a real example of reflector telescope. And you see, this is the central mirror, this piece here, and the mirror, the main mirror, is on the back. You see? One thing that you need to observe if you are going to buy one of these, you see that small spot here in the center? Yeah. That is for alignment of the telescope. If you buy a telescope and it has that, it's a good thing. If not, you will have to disassemble yours and put that thing with one of those paper rings that are used for the folders. You can put one. But then you have to disassemble the telescope. So if you find one that has that ring there, better. Of course, you probably will not be able to see if you are buying online. But most of the vendors currently do this, okay? So the other thing here, the longer focal length means less distortion. That's in the same case as the refractors. But there is one thing. Companies, in order to sell smaller scopes with a longer focal length, they put a lens inside here. Those are terrible. Don't buy a telescope that has a lens in here. Okay, my first telescope was like that. And in order to align it, I had to disassemble it. I took off the lens. I couldn't see anything because without the lens, the telescope is useless. But I was able to align the optical part with this center through the eyepiece without that. In fact, it's a Barlow, but it's a very, very wide one. So if you see a telescope that has another lens here, don't buy it. It's a no-no. Also, big apertures are very easily achievable on reflector telescopes. You can buy a 20-inch, you can buy a 25-inch, or you can buy a 4.5. 4.5 is very good, and it will give you a good view of the planets and bright nebula, okay? And those are the ones that give you best bang for the buck. Like Rick said before, I smiled when he drew, so yeah. Then we come with the hybrid telescopes. And this is a typical Maksutov Cassegrain. You see, there is a meniscus lens on the front, okay? Then there is a special paint on the back that works as a mirror, and then the light goes all the way to the back. This telescope has very good quality on image of planet. My best image of Saturn ever was on a NET 125, 180X125 of these. It was a very good night, and the view was incredible. Okay, these give you very good views of planets. You can use them for the sun too, and well, you can say you can do dual stars to separate them with this kind of telescope. Okay. These are much higher price. The difference between this one and a reflector is about, in the lower level, about $200 difference. Okay. Depends on the handling. This will need recollimation, but you cannot do that. You have to send that to the factory. because the collimation is done on the back here on the mirror, and you need a special machinery to do that. You cannot do that visually. So if you treat it well, this telescope will never in alignment and will last forever. The other thing is that these telescopes, as you see, this one is a Smith-Cassegrain, it's similar to this. This is ice. Okay? We went to Shelby Farms one night to show the stars there. It was really, really cold. And this was ice that condensated in the inside of the corrector plate. It was not outside, it was inside. It means that the telescope had humidity inside. It condensed on the plate and then froze. So I couldn't do anything with that telescope that night. They are sensitive to humidity, okay?
How about storage for something like that? Do you need to store it with some dehumidifying agent?
Well, I did my own, if you go to a pharmacy, you can ask the people in the pharmacy, they give you the desiccant packets that come with the pills. And if you get an old film canister, it is exactly the same size of the eyepiece holder. So you can put that desiccant there and put some holes on the film canister and plug it like it was an eyepiece and close it, and it will suck all the humidity from inside. Okay? That is the way I think I would save my telescope. Another thing, the telescope always, we suggest that you always store them flat or horizontal. Don't store them putting down or up, because dust or critters get in and they poo. And guess what happens when they poo on the mirror? Okay?
Your image just look like.
Yes. So always store your telescope horizontal.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Okay. So we decided what telescope we want. Now we need to decide on a mount. That is, probably you won't be able to decide what mount do you want unless you want to spend a lot of money. But anyway, it's good to know about the mounts, okay? There are basically two types of mounts. One thing, the mounts are as important as the telescope itself.
Vocabulary.
OTA, optical tube assembly.
Tube assembly, that thing you're actually looking through.
Okay? The telescope, the real telescope. Okay? If you buy a telescope that is very nice and, you decide to buy a big Cassegrain or a Maxutop Cassegrain, and you are going to see the stars and you put it on a tripod, and the tripod, when you move it, does this, forget about it. You will not be able to see anything. It has to be stable, because one slight movement on your telescope will be a movement of millions of kilometers where you are looking at. So the image will not be centered. Or if it's centered, as soon as you touch it, it will move, okay? So the mount is very important too. There are basically three types of mounts: Altas, Equatorial, and Dobsonian. That is a special, Dobsonian is a special type of Altas. Okay, so let's see. Altas is, again, this is a picture just to show it. Don't buy the mount. You see here it has a fork that allows the telescope to move up, down, and it has here an axis that allows it to move left, right. So with this telescope, you point and then you move and get to your object. If you want to follow it, you have to do two movements. Okay, one to the top, one to the right. These mounts are good for, observing on wide angle, that the object will not shift too fast. But it's not good for high power observing, because the object will move very fast from your field of view and you won't be able to see anything, okay? Again, this is not recommended for deep sky imaging. Even if you have a go-to mount, if it's Altas, you won't be able to do, well, now there are applications and software that allows you to do that. But if you use an Altas for the deep sky imaging, the image will rotate. because of the way that works, okay? As I said, you need 2 simultaneous movements to track objects. 1 to up, or 1 down, or 1 down, 1 to the left, depending on where on the sky is your object. One other thing, when you are pointing up, it's very hard to point an object because your variation is very, very limited. So once you are pointing up, it's very hard to follow an object, even with an Altas mount, okay? These are easier to set up. You just put the telescope, set your thing, and you start pointing as soon as you get to the place. It's nice. So, a special case of Altas is the Dobsonian mount. That is this telescope we have here. As you see, this is a long tube. The mount base is on the floor, and it allows to rotate around and up and down. That is the same case of the telescope that Rick has, the cultural blue scope. Those are very good because they are easy to set up. The tube goes in the back of your car on the back seat, and the mount goes on the trunk. You just arrive, put the mount, put the scope on top, and you can start observing. Okay? Because you have to know the sky first, but that's another part. That is part of the hobby. That is the enjoyment of the hobby, finding stuff that you will see on our next talk in January. The other type of mount is the equatorial mount. As you see here, you have your, the angle of the mount is set to the latitude where you are, in the case of Memphis, 35 degrees, and you align this with the polar axis of the Earth, so with the rotation of the Earth, okay? So when the air rotates and the sky moves, the telescope can follow that movement because all the objects will do an arc in front of you. Have you seen those pictures that where you see a bunch of circles of the stars? That is because the Earth rotates and everything rotates around the polar axis. So this mount does the same, okay? This mount is harder to set up because you have to know where Polaris is, so you can point the telescope at Polaris that points to the North Pole, kind of, and then you can follow with only one movement, okay? You have the polar axis and the declination axis. Once you set up your object, your declination axis doesn't move, just your polar or right ascension that is moved with this knob here. As I say, only one movement to track objects. The mounts are normally sturdier, and I will tell you why. You see here there is a counterweight. This has to be done so your telescope weight is balanced in the mount. If you use a flimsy mount, this won't work, it will fall. Okay, so normally the equatorial mounts of a price are harder and sturdier than the Altas of the same price. These are recommended for beginners, and here I'm going to make you, if you, Billy's not here, but the mass has 2 Messier object guides that you can use to find objects different than the planets and the moon. Once you get, with all those, you want to see more things, you can get your, you have one? Okay.
$5
Yes, $5 a piece. With these, it has this sky chart for each month, okay? And it tells you how to find objects with an equatorial mount. Because this mount will move north, south, east, west. Not like an Altas that will move up, down, and round, okay? So in this, you will find a star, a bright star, and then it will tell you, move south until you find this object. And this mount is perfect for that, okay? So here it is. We didn't talk about this, but it's here. All the Messier objects are there.
No.
No? The second one?
The first, well, the how-to is here for the first 50 or so.
Yes.
Or 80.
But I think that he
Volume
finished.
2's got the rest of it.
Yes, yes. The 2 volumes give you the whole Messier
I
catalog.
only
Okay.
have copies of volume 1.
Okay. So, well, we now decided that we want Equatorial Mount with a reflector telescope of 4.5 inches. Perfect. But what about technology? What the technology has done to us? Well, let's see. The conundrum. Go fishing or buy fish at the supermarket. How this applies to astronomy? Well, you want to eat fish, you can buy it or you can go to the supermarket. You want to see stars, you can find them yourself, or you can use the electronics on a mount to find the object for you. There are 2 things. So you have to decide what you want. You want the fish from the supermarket or want you find it? There are several types of computerized mounts and software for that. The first one is the push-to-mount, and it's mostly used on Dobsonians, okay? And let me explain you real quick here. You see here is a controller. There is a cable that goes inside, and there is another cable that goes to the bottom. So it detects where you move the telescope up and down. And it has a computer here that has a watch, a clock, and a database of all the objects. So you tell it, go to the Orion Nebula once you align it, and it has these 2 arrows here. You see this arrow, go to the left and go down. That means that you have to move the scope on that direction to find the Orion Nebula. When it finds it and it knows that it's there, the arrows will disappear and you will see the object on your telescope. Okay? This is called a push-to-mount because you have to move it. There are no motors. The electronics is helping you to find it, but it's not moving the mount. You have to move it. Okay? The advantage of this telescope is that you can use it with a computer or without. It depends on you. Okay? If you are trying to find an object that is very hard to find, you can use this and find it, or you can develop your skills on stargazing and find it by yourself. All the computers need an initial alignment. Okay, even the scope that Rick was showing you before that has compass, a GPS, and a level, it will initially move up and down, left, right for 2 minutes, and then once it gets its bearing, it will tell you, okay, I'm aligned. Let's start. How does it get aligned? You have to go to 2 stars and tell it this is this star and this is this star, and it will know where it is in the sky, okay, in the Earth. So it's not that you will buy a computer and the computer will do everything for me. No, you have to align it. So you need to know where this alignment stars are. It will probably tell you, okay, let's go to Antares. Okay, you have to know where it's Antares. Okay, but it's not that hard. Okay. You can build your own. You can buy a telescope like this first, without the mount, and you can buy a commercial controller and do this by yourself if you like that. It's up to you again. You want the fish or you want to go to the supermarket. All these need external power. So when you buy a telescope, you have to be aware that you need a battery. One thing, do not buy the batteries that the telescope companies sell. Those are not good, okay? First of all, I with a friend, we bought a lot of, it was a pallet of batteries. None of them worked. When we opened them, we found that we have to solder all the connections because there was a very bad quality process of soldering, the automatic soldering, and there were a lot of loose connections inside. So we have to solder each one of them. Okay, that was in French camp. So it was a mess. So it will, you can have a cable too that connects to the cigarette lighter in your car because most of those mounts work with 12 volts. So you connect on your car, you have a long cable, and you can use your mount, okay? There are another type of go-to mounts that these are go-to because they will move by themselves, okay? It has two motors. One motor is here to move the telescope on the right ascension or east-west, or another motor, let me see what it is. Right here, for moving the mount north-south, okay? These go-to mounts are available for any type of mount that you have. Altas, Dobsonians, or Equatorial. This is an Equatorial mount, okay? And as you see, this is for observing the sun. This is my setup for observing the sun. You can use it for any type of mount. It has a computer that does all the calculations for you. You have to align it first, and after that, it will go to wherever you want, okay? They need initial alignment. Some can track satellites. It's not true. I've never been able to track a satellite. It has to be perfect aligned. And once it tracks a satellite, it will stop, and you have to reset the mount and start again for the next satellite. So it's not really, it's just a commercial thing, but I just have to tell you that doesn't work. And you have a database of thousands of objects until it says this. Well, that is a phrase from 2001: A Space Odyssey. These also need external power, okay? And there is a new type of mounts called Wi-Fi mount. What that means? Well, the mount doesn't have a controller, doesn't have this. They use your phone. There is an app on your phone that connects to the mount via Wi-Fi, and you can control the mount from your phone. Okay, again, you have to align it. Okay, there are specific brands that sell these. Celestron and Meet sell these. I don't know if there are others, but those are the ones that I found. They need initial alignment. You have a database of thousands of objects, and it's as easy as you say, okay, I want to go to this star, and then hit go to, and it will go there. Okay, very nice. Expensive?
My Orion does that.
Yes, when it's with the software, yeah, I know. But this doesn't use the control. You have to use a controller in the middle.
Right.
Yes. They need external power too, and they need two powers. One power for the mount and the motors, and another for your laptop, because you are going to run out of energy on your battery, okay? So you have to have two power supplies for this one. Or a big battery that will charge both.
I'll tell you something you don't think about is how long the batteries don't last when it's only 20 degrees outside.
Yes.
You're trying to observe with a computer or
Yes.
something. Well, the batteries don't last
No.
at all.
And here, there is something important. You are going to be there with a very bright screen that will affect your night vision and the night vision of the people that is around you. And the astronomers are very careful on what type of light they shine when they are observing, because once you get adapted to the darkness, you can see a lot of things on your telescope. But if you get a bright light, you will lose that ability for at least 30 minutes. So nobody wants any type of strong lights flashing around. And if you are going to use one of these mounts, or bring your iPad with a software for the planetarium software, not everybody would like that you blind them without those. Okay, so that is one thing we need to consider. Now we can talk about filters, because they will tell you, oh, do you want a filter, this type of filter? This is a magic filter that takes out the light pollution. Yeah, right. So this is not advertised, but these are the filters that I would recommend if you are going to get a telescope, okay? A moon filter. We are going to have an eclipse soon in January. And if you want to see, you are going to see the eclipse, it will be the full moon first, and you will get blinded by it. Okay? So you might get, they are not, many telescopes come with them. So, or you can buy it, it's not $10 or something like that on the stores on Amazon. The other filter you can buy, there is a light pollution filter, but it's not magic. And it's worth only if you have a big aperture telescope. It's not worth it. Because with a small aperture telescope, you have less light. And if you put a filter, you won't see anything.
Lose all your light.
Exactly. Okay? And the other filter, if you plan to observe the sun, is a solar filter. Those are not cheap, but it's the best protection you can have for your eyes if you want to see the sun. Okay? Those are the three.
In a solar eclipse, can you use those for a solar eclipse?
It depends on the eclipse. If it's a total eclipse, there is a period of time when on totality where you can take out the filter and you can use the telescope regularly. But as soon as it starts being bright again, you need to put the filter back.
What about a barrel field?
Sorry?
A barrel field. It changes the block barrier.
Oh, you mean okay? Those are two polarizing filters. Yes, those are good for the moon. Okay, or when you have a big telescope, really, really big, and you are looking at, by example, Jupiter. It's too bright. You can regulate the intensity of the light from Jupiter with a dual polarizing filter. Yeah.
For planetary filters, what do you recommend? Is it green? Is it blue? Red?
Well, it depends. For example, in the case of Jupiter, there are several filters. I've never been a fan of using filters to watch Jupiter. I just enjoy it with the colors and try to see as much detail as I can. But I think that the green and red are good for Jupiter.
What about Mars?
Mars, I haven't seen any filter for Mars. I see that I never seen through, but I know that Orion sells a filter that is for Mars. I don't know what, haven't seen the curve of light of the filter. I don't know what it is.
So for Jupiter, would a green filter maybe bring out the red spot a little bit?
I think that the green filter will bring up the bands of the clear bands in the north and south. The red filter, Bill? Do you want to say something? Oh, yeah, no, okay. The red one will increase the red spot. Okay, we'll give you more detail on the red
I
spot.
haven't had a lot of luck with planetary filters. They really seem to enhance the features very much. So
No?
I think I just
I prefer to invest my time trying to get a picture and
I bought a whole set of, all the different colored filters, and played with them for about a year. And
not much. Huh?
I saw them cheap.
Not very good pictures.
good deal.
Business between president and expression.
Okay, well, those are the three filters that I would suggest you to get. There are many more, but until you really need them, don't think about it. Okay?
So what you need is an O3,
Yes,
hydrogen alpha, and,
sulfur.
well, for nebula and stuff.
Yeah, well, but that is, you have a big telescope.
Put up with it.
Because if you use an H alpha filter on a refractor, you won't see anything.
Right.
The only thing where you can see some is in Orion Nebula that is bright enough, but anything else, unless you have a big aperture, no.
Last year, Brian and I, we pulled out the Horsehead. We could actually see the silhouette of the Horsehead Nebula. I think it was it H alpha or O3?
H alpha.
Was it H alpha? Okay, right. So
Yeah.
that was pretty impressive.
Well, cameras, because now everybody wants to take pictures, and that is fine. That is what we have now. This is the technology. We live in a social media, and we want to show what we see, and you know. Well, there are cameras now, and there is a camera that everybody has, the cellular phone. Everybody has a cellular phone with a camera. This is one of the times where everything that happens is documented on video, no matter where. Okay, so for telescope, we have this special adapter that will get behind your eyepiece, and this one is from Celestron, will allow you to adjust all the movements of the telescope and the phone. It has a 3D adjustment, so you can pinpoint exactly where it is. Probably you don't follow me because you never tried to take a picture with your cellular phone on a telescope. It's really hard. Okay, you have any people that there is people that goes there and oh look, well, for me it's very hard. Okay, so I don't try much, but this one is very good. It's not very expensive, and it's called the Celestron XYZ3 axis adapter or something like that. Okay, and it's good. It looks very good quality. A friend of mine has one, and I saw it and I said, this is good. Okay. Then you can take pictures with your Canon camera, and this is a technique called prime focus, where you take off the lens, put a special ring, and then an adapter, and this goes to your telescope, and you can take pictures of nebula and galaxies and planets. You can take pictures of planets, but they will be very small in the CCD, okay? And, well, another way of taking pictures. And there is also the specially designed cameras for astronomy. You see, they have this eyepiece nose that you plug into this camera here, where these lenses, I will show you what is this lens for, and then you can connect this to your telescope and you can take pictures, okay? The difference between this and this is the size of the CCD. On this one, the CCD is much more bigger than the one here. So you need a tracking mount for this. Okay, this camera is nice because when you are not doing astrophotography, you can put this lens, and it's a wide angle lens. You can leave the camera on and you can see meteors and that kind of stuff in your computer. Okay. So let's summarize with the cameras. Your cellular phone is the simplest. With this, there are many adapters. This is the newest that I saw, and it's very good because it allows you to align the phone in every dimension. Then you can use your Canon or Casio or Nikon camera, adapt that to your telescope, and there are the dedicated cameras. These are Chinese. Orion is also Chinese, and these start at $200. Okay, so it's not cheap. The easier of always, the cellular phone. And you will need a tracking mount if you want to take pictures. And you probably will need to learn how to align your telescope with the polar axis so the object stays in the field of view. That is something you will learn later. And eyepieces. Again, this is just a flight over that. Eyepieces can be very cheap, which means that are not very good quality, or can be very expensive, like this that you have here. Okay, this is the brand that I consider is the best for eyepieces, is the Teleview, And you see that this eyepiece is in stock and it costs $654. Okay? The cheapest here is $328. But these are the best. So probably if you are going to buy a small telescope, a starter telescope, you are not going to get this. But this can get expensive very, very fast.
You know, I think my worst fear is that I die and my wife sells my eyepieces for what I told her I paid for.
You have to take provision. Freddy did it.
I made Excel file with all the prices.
I have the name of the guys I have to call if he passed away to sell the eyepiece and everything. I put it on.
Okay. The brands for eyepieces, Celestial, Mead, Oron, Teleview, and William Optics. I have a couple of William Optics eyepieces. They are very good. They are not that expensive, but they can compare in quality to the Televiews, okay? Okay, now the tips. Buying a telescope is like buying a car. You decide for a Ford, you buy your Ford, you love it. Somebody else hates it. You buy a Chevy and it works fine for you, but somebody else doesn't. Same thing is with a telescope. I cannot tell you what to buy because we will in trouble. One thing I can tell you, do not buy those cheap 200, 800x power telescopes, okay? They put on the box and they put an image of Jupiter, an image of the pilot of creation taken with the Hubble, and you say, oh, I'm gonna buy this, 800 power. No, don't buy that, please. Do yourself a favor. If you are not sure if you like astronomy, get a set of binoculars first. That is the best starter telescope or the best start instrument for astronomy. It's easier to handle, it's easier for the kids to handle, and you have a wide field of view so you don't spend much time searching for things. Because you just do this, and they are on the same field of view. Okay? So,
A pair of binoculars and a cheap recliner?
yes, exactly. Yes, that you will spend hours looking at just the stars.
Just the stars, no moon.
And you can look at the moon too. Yeah. You will see the planets. You won't see the rings of Saturn with a binocular, unless it's a big one. But it's there. You can enjoy that, and it will give you an introduction, and you will see what is needed because. Astronomy is not just sitting there and watching the telescope. It's being under the cold, under the heat, with the mosquitoes flying around you at night. So not everybody would like that. So if you are not sure, buy a binocular. Try that and see if that you like that. The mount, again, get a good mount. If you see a telescope in a store and you move it and it's flaky, don't buy it. Even if it's a steel, you will be frustrated when you try to find something and you can't because the scope doesn't behave like it should. It moves around and then you cannot fix it. Okay? This is important. If you have the chance to choose the finder, choose a straight to finder. There are some finders like that the telescope is this way and you look this way. They have a diagonal in the middle. Okay, those are good, but I recommend that you buy a straight to finder, and you will see when you come in January how a straight to finder is used to find objects in the sky with the help of your guide or your Messier guide. Consider this, the best telescope is the most used. You may have 5 telescopes at home. I bet you there is one favorite for you. That is the best telescope you can have, the one that you use most. Okay, you may have a big telescope, but you don't use it much because it's heavy, or you need somebody that helps you to mount the telescope on the tripod, or you need somebody to help you assemble the telescope. So think of all those things when you buy a telescope. Of course, quality is in proportion of price. If you find a telescope for $80, it will not be the same quality as one of $200, just for starter telescopes, okay? So, you got into eBay and won this. What do you do now? Well, the first thing you can do is go to the webpage of the Memphis Astronomical Society, and we have a new scope held PDF file that you can download and read at home with easy. It will tell you many tricks and many ways of setting up your telescope. Among of those is setting the finder. You will see that in January. Okay, the finder is important to set in advance to your observing session. Get a star chart and learn to use it, and learn how to use it. It's easy. It's not rocket science. Okay, it's easy to make. Or buy the Messier catalog objects again, the Messier catalog guides, and you can learn from that too.
You don't receive any penny from that.
Okay. Yes.
He likes the thing.
It travels with me everywhere I go.
Yes.
Even when I have a go-to telescope. I went once to French camp and was ready to work, and I had my program and everything, and my mount didn't work. Didn't want to work. I don't know what happened. So I went to my old Messier object, and that night I saw 25 objects from this guy, manually. So
Yes.
I always have with me. Again, come to our January meeting, and you're welcome to come with us to the observing sessions. If you don't buy the telescope yet, you can come, see the different telescope people have, and you can that way be more informed on what you want to buy in the future. Now, a broken promise. I told you I was not going to recommend anything, but I cannot go without that. And this is what I would buy for my grandson, Roberto, okay? Well, I told you about binoculars. If I will buy binoculars, I will buy him this. This is the binoculars, sky chart, permanent. The only thing, this doesn't have the planets. And it comes with a red light. The red light is very important, and you will see why. Or I could buy a little bit bigger telescope that also comes with two guides. And if you buy this or the previous one, you have access to Starry Night software from Orion that is a planetarium software for free when you buy this, okay? One thing, I was telling you, don't buy a telescope by the images. This one has the images, okay? And it's not fair. This is a telescope that is for kids, so to motivate them. The images are a little misleading, but it's okay. I think that in this case, you can do that. This one comes with two eyepieces, 25 and 10 millimeters. This is a small telescope. It's something like this. So it's easy for the kids to carry around and watch around, okay?
Tabletop telescope.
Yes, tabletop telescope. Now, for me, what I would buy. I would buy a Dobsonian 8 to 10 inches. All my life as an astronomer, I've been very wary of getting the aperture fever. Okay?
Not me.
I have tried with all my guts not to get into that. So I would buy 8 or 10 inches. Okay? And if I want to go to telescope, I would buy an inch, 8-inch German Equatorial Mount for my astrophotography. Okay? That is for me. I don't tell my brands or anything, but that is what I would buy. And I thought that we can talk a few minutes about these. These are the observing etiquette and rules for the Memphis Astronomical Society. I think that they are on the website too. Okay.
are, we can
Well,
send them out.
first of all, no smoking when we are in observing session. We cannot use firearms on the premises. No alcoholic beverages. There must be present an adult member of the society to be to execute an observing session. Parking is permitted only on designated areas, and this is important. If you arrive after the beginning of the observing session, turn on your headlights at least 100 feet away from the telescope. Again, people has their vision, night vision, adjusted. If you come with the lights of your car, you blind everybody. And it takes half an hour or more to get your eyes accustomed again to the dark situation. Okay, another thing, no flashlights. I know that now, they sell those LED flashlights that have 3 million lumens in a AAA battery. Those are nice, but not for observing. You can get one of those flashlights that Kroger sells that have 2 AA batteries. Go to a party store and get one of those balloons, red balloons, and put it around the top of the flashlight, and that is the perfect red light for observing. You won't bother anybody, and we will appreciate that. Again, another thing, cellular telephones might not be used unless they are dim or equipped with a red filter. And again, when a cellular phone blink light, that is a lot of blue light that is the one that affects most your night vision. So again, a little bit of consideration there from your part, and we will appreciate that. Okay. Well, if children are present, they must not run around the area for obvious reasons. There are a bunch of tripods there. Nobody sees them. A kid can just trip, and well, something can happen. The telescope can fall on top of him. You never know. And well, this is logical. If you bring food or something, you have to take your trash. And well, the last one is a disclaimer that members are visiting at observing sessions are using the site at their own risk. Okay. I know this, but these guys are kind of picky. But it's the best thing for making an observing session successful and nice for everyone. My references, if you want to learn more about your first scope, there are some links here. If somebody wants them, I can send you by email. The new telescope seminar part 1 and 2 is our talk for January, and it will show you more technical details on how to use your telescope, how to find objects, and how to align your telescope, align the finder and everything, okay? And special thanks to Bill Wilson for helping with the style and some corrections.
Go back one minute, go back. Astro Backyard, it's an excellent website, and he's also got a YouTube channel, Trevor Jones.
Yes.
That's probably the best YouTube channel that I've seen for astronomy stuff. He's got a ton of followers. I think he's up to 36,000 right now. He had 6,000 a year and a half ago, so he's really blowing up.
Yeah.
He's selling T-shirts on his YouTube channel right now. So astrobackyard.com and his YouTube channel. Maybe we can get him here. See if I can get him here on my watch. But that's an excellent resource. Now, it is pretty sophisticated. It's astrophotography. It's not really telescope.
Yes.
But
he had a buying your first telescope article, so
yeah,
that's what I.
He's got some good material on his website.
Okay. Any more questions?
Back to finder scopes. My scope came with a Easy Finder 2 with the red dot. How do you compare that with the straight?
Well, the red dot finder doesn't have any kind of magnification. Okay, so it's your eyesight. With a finder, a real finder scope, you have, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, and it's bigger than your eye, so it captures more light. So if you are trying to find something that is dark, it's easier. Okay.
About the illuminated versus where the crosshairs won't get lost in the dark.
Yes.
The
Yes.
illuminated, what do you think about that?
Those are good, but as always, anything that brings light to your eye can make you blind in your night vision. So it should be, you can use them, but very, very dim. So you almost don't see the line. That is the perfect spot there. Okay. Well, thank you very much.